I'm Jeff Schwartz of Schwartz Performance, and I don't know if you can hear this or not, but we've got the May showers outside instead of the April showers, but we'll try to get her done anyway and see how this works out. In the background here you can see we've got the 63 Chevy that we've done a complete build on. We're waiting to have some interior stuff done, but we run into a little bit of problem with dyno testing it and so forth. We had to open the hood and close it quite a lot, and let me show you what I got here. Many people often wonder why billet hood hinges are so expensive. Well, they're made from billet material, which is quite expensive, usually 60, 61 or 70, 75, and they're very rigid and they work pretty well. The stock hood hinges are okay, but most of them have worn out, and then you're faced with reproduction hinges. Problem with reproduction hinges is they're made from inferior metal, softer, bends easy, flexes, that sort of thing. So what we've got here is reproduction hood hinges, and they look real nice, the pins are pretty tight and so forth, but when we went to open up the hood, it actually flexed rearward into this cowl panel that has now been removed from here. So it caused some paint damage, and we're repainting that cowl piece because of it. We're also going to swap these out for some Eddy Motorsports billet hinges, and that should eliminate the flexing problem that we had. So although those hinges are expensive, around 700 bucks a set, it beats the heck out of ruining your paint job. I'm really excited about the new product we got in this car. It's a full chassis, bolt-in of course, for the unibody 67 Barracuda. The A-body Mopars, essentially. They vary in wheelbase slightly, and these are available to order right now. However, if it's a different model than this Barracuda, they vary in wheelbase, and we will need your car body here in order to fit it into the car. It bolts in like our previous Mopar chassis, and we'll take the modern Hemi. This one's actually getting a Hellcat engine. As with all of our unibody chassis, our rail goes to the inside of the factory rail, which is right here. This body has already been mini-tubbed to fit a 315 rear tire. Obviously, if you wanted a wider tire, this mini-tub could be extended into this factory rail a little bit. Since there's no flat surface here to bolt into, we're going to be welding this little plate here to give us a flat surface to bolt to, and then room to get a nut behind. So this will be our mounting bracket here. And then we will have some other brackets. The torsion bar cross member, will weld some plates in there, and it'll be pretty much the same type of installation as with all of our Mopar chassis. As you can see, the front factory rails have been removed, and our chassis rail kind of takes the place of that. We've basically cut it off back here by the torque box, and we've cut out the upper shock tower area. Our chassis bolts into the existing core support here, and once again it'll be a pretty straightforward bolt-in installation. Incidentally, these chassis will actually take some weight out of the car because we're getting rid of the heavy stock steering components. We've got an aluminum power rack and pinion there. We've got aluminum steering bars. We've got a hollow tube sway bar that will go in here and be connected with a billet aluminum arm. We've also ditched the leaf springs, which are very heavy. So overall, this should probably reduce the weight of this car by about maybe 50 pounds, something like that. So a lot more strength and lighter weight. We often get questions on how do you bolt a full chassis into a Mopar unibody car when they don't have a removable front subframe like a Camaro or a Nova does. So let me just run through it real quick for you here. This is a 70s Cuda that we got in for a chassis install. We do a lot of chassis installs here. In this case, we mini-tubbed it and installed the chassis. It's nearly complete, but we just got a few loose ends to finish up, and I'll show you how we install it. In the back here, we've actually cut into the rail for our mini-tub, and you can see where we've dished into the factory rail, and then welded a nut in for our rearmost mount to to bolt into the original factory rail. In the area of the leaf spring, we've got this plate here that can either be bolted or welded to the factory spring perch mount, and then we've got a tab here that bolts to the side of the chassis. We've got nuts welded into the chassis, so it's a simple grade 8 couple of bolts here that again tie into the existing unibody structure. The area where the forward part of the leaf spring was mounted was a highly stressed area that's fairly beefed up from the factory in the unibody to handle the strength of the old hinges and so forth. Moving forward, we've got the torsion bar cross member, which we've slotted and welded a couple plates in here, and these bolt completely through our chassis rail in 2 places on each side. Moving a little further forward, we've plated off the factory front rail and welded a tab to that, which lines up with a hole running through our chassis rail. Incidentally, these holes that run through our chassis rails have tubes welded in them, so when you tighten it down, it will not collapse the tube in any way. And then we have to cut out the factory shock tower area of the inner fender well. This one still needs some final trimming, but it's been just clearance so that we can get it up in there. And then moving to the front, we've got the factory core support. In this case, there was some rust issues, so we welded a plate onto the side of the factory metal here. Normally, the factory metal is in good shape, and we just drill a couple of holes and bolt through there. But again, this was rusted, so we cut that off of there and just welded this plate on. And then we've actually removed a little bit of the core support here so that the chassis can be dropped straight down with the engine in it. Sometimes we leave this in there if we're not installing an engine, and the engine can be dropped in from the top later on. But if you want to remove the chassis with the engine in it, you need to clearance this area so that our front mount can actually drop out straight out the bottom. That's essentially it. 66 GTO has been driven quite extensively since the weather got a little bit better and the snow went away. So we got it all dialed in, just doing a final couple of tweaks here, and then it's getting shot for a magazine feature story. We've been all over North America with this Ribestos truck, and it's been a blast. We've got it really dialed in now, so it's driving exceptionally well. We've been to Vancouver, British Columbia. We've been to Dallas, Texas. We were in Atlanta, and the next trip is going to Toronto, Canada. So real happy with it, and I can't wait to get a few more miles on it. Yellow is one of those colors that you love it or hate it. I happen to love it, and this thing with the raw carbon stripes is really awesome. Big block Chevy, billet dash, Dominator EFI. We're substituting all the titanium fasteners here on the bench for the steel ones that were in it, and getting all the electrical buttoned up, and this should be on the road real soon. We've got the high-performance small block Chevy in this 67 Camaro. This thing's going to run on E85 and make all kinds of horsepower. So we're just doing some mock-up stages here and doing fuel system stuff, and should be a fun ride. The Porsche 924 GTS replica. We've been doing a lot of dyno tuning on this one, so it's pretty dialed in now, and we've driven it around. I'm amazed at how exceptional this car drives. I guess you'd expect that from Porsche, but we've done just a few bolt-on suspension mods to this thing, and fabricated some disc brake components using Wilwood calipers and rotors, and it's got a nice big brake system on it. Incidentally, it didn't make any power, so I did some research. We're a dealer for Turbonetics, and this is a Turbonetics turbo that was supplied to us by the engine builder, and the turbo is too large is what they're telling me. The exhaust housing is gigantic, and a little 2-liter engine can't spin that thing. So it comes on to boost about 4,000 RPM and barely builds about 5 pounds of boost. And we check everything for boost leaks and all that kind of stuff. And Turbonetics is telling me that exhaust housing is way too big, and we'll probably double our horsepower by going to a smaller turbo. Incidentally, this made 144 rear wheel. Should have been more like 300 rear wheel. So the turbo is inbound, and we should have it here shortly, and can't wait to try it out. Here we got a Super B, and there we've got a 70 Buick Skylark. By next month, you'll see paint on both of these. The Eleanor Mustang, we've completed all the metal work on the top of the body, and we're just doing some loose ends on the bottom, some final welding and finishing underneath here, and then we'll be off to do the final body work on this one. In the background, we've got a Vet there, and we're just taking the motor out of that for this Nova project I'm going to show you next. 74 Chevy Nova came in with a nice bright red, pretty paint job on it, but once we media blasted it, we had all kinds of sins in here. So we've replaced pretty much all the metal on here, and we're about to put a new floor pan in. We've done upper cowl, the side cowl, the firewall had all kinds of Swiss cheese holes in it. We did a smooth firewall, and then the entire inside, as you can see, has been cut out of here, all because of rust issues and poor workmanship. So we're going to weld all new stuff in there, and it'll be just like new. This is the 72 AMX hood. These hoods were made from the factory out of fiberglass and metal. So they had a raised cowl area, you can see right through here, that goes all the way to the side and kind of tapers inward towards the front. And this was made out of fiberglass and then bonded to a metal inner structure. So what we had here was a understructure that was all rotted out, and the fiberglass was in really good shape. So we were able to find another flat hood which uses the same metal structure, and we were able to clean that up, patch a couple areas that had a little bit of rust, and then rebond that to the original fiberglass cowl. So now we've got a nice functional cowl hood. We still have a couple of cracks to weld up here in the under structure, but by and large it's pretty much done, other than final body work. So excited that we were able to make a good part out of a couple of pieces of junk. That's all for our May update. We'll show you more on this project next month.